That's the thing
Okay.
I'm most proud of, is that I was able to build my business to be successful and scalable,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually got to a point where I was working less than 10 hours a week in a very profitable business.
Are you serious? I would love to do that. 10 hours a week.
And I almost said in my mind AIs, but I think it's really inarguable that AI is the ultimate efficiency. Now,
Mhm.
it has to be used right. So one of my friends, and I wish I could remember who said this because I didn't come up with this, but he said, we automate the ordinary so we can excel at the extraordinary.
Hmm.
And that really was true. So here's like a great example. Before we automated, our process was that when we leased a house, we notified the owner, because that's such great news. Everybody wants to celebrate. Hey, we leased the house. But number three is resourcefulness. And I would say that's probably the thing that served me best throughout all of my journeys.
Running. Yep.
It's just being sort of like, I know I'm going to run into obstacles, and we have a little plaque in my title company that says everything is figure outable. And I believe,
Welcome to the show, Clay Lehman. It's nice to finally meet you. Clay Lehman is I don't know, should I call you an AI instructor? He's from finance background as a controller. From there, he kind of pivoted to real estate, from real
yep.
estate to AI. And what a journey. Your story is so inspiring. I know my audience will be thrilled to have you on this show. Please, can you introduce yourself and can you tell us your journey to the real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the idea that it might be, did you use the word inspiring? I don't know. It's not, it's been interesting for sure.
Yep.
So you were right on cue or right on track there. My background is in accounting. So, I was a controller at Pulte Homes, which was my first kind of dipping my toe into real estate.
Yeah.
From there, I got a little deeper into the real estate pool with going to work for a mortgage lender, and I was responsible for taking care of and selling their foreclosed houses. That was 2009, so there were
Wow.
foreclosed houses everywhere.
Yeah.
And so when I left there, that was when I started getting into small business for myself. I started my first real estate business then. I've kind of moved around in real estate, having different businesses under my umbrella, real estate brokerage, property management, and most recently a title company. And then in the past, really, it's been almost exactly a year, I launched Lehman Strategic Partners, which is my online coaching program. A lot of it is real estate related, but I kind of come from more of a business systems and optimization background. So I work with a lot of different small business owners.
Okay. So, when I was doing the research to come, for this, of course, I kind of went to your website and I'm seeing get in touch, get in touch, get in touch. What problem is your company trying to solve in the real estate industry?
Okay, so
Break it down for me. Yeah.
it's an easy question to answer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help people that are stuck, plateaued. I think it seems like it's an almost universal experience that when we start our businesses, we kind of have like a period of success, working with the people in our inner circle.
Yep.
And then we do a good job for them. And then they refer us to other people.
Mhm.
And we look up after a few years and we're working really hard, but we've stopped growing because we haven't been really shown a different way, the way to generate a scalable business. So what I'm trying to help people do is move from where they're kind of on the hamster wheel, working their butts off, but not getting anywhere, to where they have a scalable business that they can grow without going crazy. The kind of shorthand way I like to say it is, I want to help you get the most out of your business and the most out of your life. That's the thing I'm most proud of, is that I was able to build my business to be successful and scalable, and eventually got to a point where I was working less than 10 hours a week in a very profitable business.
Are you serious? I would love to do that. 10 hours a week.
Well, I would love to do it again. My son was giving me a hard time because he saw one of my videos and he goes, you're talking about how you're help people see how they can, stop working 60 hours a week. And he said, is that because you work 90 hours a week? And I said, no, not at all. It's just I'm working on 2 or 3 businesses now, but
Okay.
I
Yeah.
100% with my property management business, we grew like crazy, and make no mistake, there were a lot of years really where I was on that hamster wheel, but I was able to kinda solve the equation, and it really just comes down to your systems. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the, like I really love AI and everybody's really attracted to AI, but at the end of the day, the fundamentals don't change.
Yeah.
You have to have strong systems and processes in place before you can unlock yourself from small business jail. You really have to map out what you're doing so that you can then bring on help, whether that's a full-time staff person or even just outsourcing pieces of what you do or automating and
Yeah.
using AI. But until you kind of like I wrote a series of blog articles that effectively kind of boil down to if you apply AI to a mess, you just get messy AI. I
Let's
mean,
see. Yeah.
it's not
Solve
gonna
your
like
problem. Yeah.
exactly. It'll help solve your problems, and that's like when I kind of give that lecture of AI isn't going to solve everything, I then pivot to, but it can help because I have protocols where we use AI to help you document your processes.
Yeah.
My favorite book of the last couple years is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And in that book, he talks about what he calls the camcorder method, where he would record, he always says that dates me because it tells you I'm old enough to have actually used a camcorder to do this.
Yeah.
But now it's more of the Loom method because you can use an app called Loom to record your screen and record you.
Yeah.
And you take that Loom recording, which produces a transcript, and you can feed that transcript into AI, and it will help you create a standard operating procedure in no time.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a great way because listen, I wouldn't say I'm the pot calling the kettle black or whatever, but I was terrible about documenting my processes before this kind of AI powered method came available. I mean, we
Yeah.
would do it. I learned after probably 6 or 7 years of struggling, I would hire people and I would ask, man, what's wrong with them? They just don't get it.
Yeah.
But then I
There
realized
is
I
no
wasn't
process in place. Yeah. So this solution you're preferring, is it for real estate or property management or both?
well, I would say what I was just talking about is for anybody in business,
Okay. Standard operating procedures.
if you're in business, you have to have actually, let me restate that because I almost said you have to have processes. Well, you do have processes, but until you document them, they're likely very messy and very inconsistent.
Sure.
So if you're in business, whether it's real estate or property management or sending rocket ships into space, you have to have documented processes. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a bottom line.
Yeah. And this was what you experienced in your early days in business.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Well, what I experienced in my early days in business was mess and chaos and, inconsistency,
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like totally overwhelmed. And it was the implementation of a number of things, but a big one being the documentation of our processes.
Yeah.
And then we took them through a optimization framework called Eliminate, Automate, Delegate, where you
Okay.
take your system and you first figure out what am I doing that I don't need to,
Mm-hmm.
because especially if you don't have documented processes, you're almost guaranteed to have something in there that you don't even need to be doing. But the elimination, and this was my most recent blog article, was just talking about kind of comparing the act of pruning, and gardening. It's kind of, I think it's pretty well known that
Yeah.
when you have a garden, you have to prune away what's not bearing fruit to allow room for what is.
Well, yeah.
And that's true in business too. And so I walked through how when you go through the eliminate of that framework, it's not just process steps. You need to look at what apps do you need to eliminate, because
Yeah.
that's another thing that I experienced. I had shiny object syndrome, and I would go to conferences, and when I told my team, "Hey, I'm going to a conference," you could just see the dread on their face because they knew I was going to come back with 15 amazing, in my head, amazing ideas and apps that we were going to add to, what we were doing, but it became too much, and so, you gotta look at your tech stack. What
Yeah.
I encourage people to do is kinda start with, like, what are the mission critical pieces of tech you can't do without, and that's typically, like, a production software. In my title business, we use
Yeah.
a production software called Qualia, and no matter what else we have, we've gotta have that,
Yeah.
and I say, look at that and figure out what already lives in these critical pieces of tech that you're duplicating with some other piece of tech. Like a great example is a lot of CRMs now offer, Calendly type application.
Yeah.
But you may also have Calendly, but maybe you could get rid of one of those. So,
Yep.
anyways, once I started applying those frameworks, then I started to get out of the chaos.
Yeah. So you had a successful real estate company, then switched to coaching agents on AI. So why did you make this change? And what
Well,
solution are you offering these people?
it's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
One that at times I ask myself. Okay, let me
Yeah.
clean up my answer a little bit because
Okay.
it's actually a lot simpler. In my title company, I serve the role of business development manager.
Okay.
And so I go out and I meet with real estate agents to talk to them about potentially using our title company,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned a little bit about business development over the years, and I understand that when I talk to somebody about using my title company, I don't want to talk to them about my title company. I want to talk to them about what do they need, because I have to understand what they need before I can help them, or figure out if it's a good fit for us. Spoiler alert, it usually is. In those conversations, what was coming out of it was almost turning into like mini coaching sessions. And at the same time, I was learning a lot about AI. And so in every conversation, I say, oh my gosh, the thing you're describing, here's how AI could help you accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of has morphed into, and I also am sort of I love starting things. I love getting them going. And then I like to kind of look to something else to start and get going. And so I typically will start a business and then hire really strong team, get it up and running, and then kind of pivot to the next thing. And that's sort of where I landed with Lehman Strategic Partners.
Okay. And somewhere on your website, you said AI is the ultimate shortcut, but not a corner cut. What do you mean by this?
Okay, so or I shouldn't say early, but when I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
one of my math teachers, I was not a great student. One of my math teachers told my parents that if there's a shortcut, Clay will find it. And didn't mean it as a compliment, but
Okay.
but what I've learned about myself is that I'm really committed to doing a good job and I'm really committed to getting the right answer, but I want to get there as quickly as possible. And I think that combination of a commitment to doing it right, but wanting to be efficient, sort of like that's where I land. Some might call it being slightly lazy, but like I said, keep in mind I'm committed to getting the right answer in the right way and not cutting corners, but I do want to get there as efficiently as possible. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I almost said in my mind AIs, but I think it's really inarguable that AI is the ultimate efficiency. Now,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be used right. I think there is a very lazy way to use AI,
Yeah.
but if you put some effort into it, it's your partner, not your replacement.
Okay. And looking at your history from controller to agent to title company, you're not like the typical tech guy, right? And how did you get so comfortable with AI that you're now coaching people on how to use AI?
So, well, the one is I follow a guy that I'll share with you. His name is Jonathan Mast, and
Okay.
he has a Facebook group called AI Prompts for Entrepreneurs. But I also have a voracious appetite for learning, which again, I was reflecting on that with my kids this weekend because I've said that for a little while, but I guarantee you my teachers from high school, definitely middle school,
Uh-huh.
would say, I don't think that's true, at least not lifelong. But I love learning the things that I get interested in. And I got really interested in AI. So what I did was I started attending some trainings with Jonathan Mast's group. And then on my own, just started diving into the different tools. And one of the things that I think it might be a manifestation. My mom is a very talented painter, and my dad is a CPA. And
Okay.
so you don't normally put a creative like my mom who's super
And the
creative,
professional, yeah.
but and so I have one sibling, my brother, and he's a like a web coder.
Okay.
Both of us have kind of, on the surface, you would think not super creative jobs. But I think the way that that creativity we get from my mom manifests itself is in the ability to take things that we've learned
Mhm.
and mash them together to produce something new.
Yeah.
My passion before getting into I don't know if my passion's the right word, but I would get excited talking about Excel and spreadsheets and
Okay.
formulas and
Yeah.
functions. So, like, I tell people that, I'm pretty well educated, but I would argue that I got more mileage, or at least as much mileage, out of what I was able to learn about Excel after college, just through working and seeing what other people did, and then using my creativity, as I did from anything I learned in school.
Yeah.
And so, to answer your question about how did I get
Get
comfortable,
into it.
same kind of thing. I just got super interested in AI. I started paying attention to what people were talking about. But the beautiful thing about AI is it can help you learn AI. It can help you learn all kinds of things. But if
Yeah.
AI is what you want to learn, you just ask it. Like, if you're trying to get it to do something and you're not happy with the results, you
Yeah.
just say, "Hey, can you give me a better prompt to get the result I'm trying to get?" And it'll say, "Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Here's the prompt that you're looking for." I mean, it's a great learning partner.
Wow. So a lot of real estate agents or business owners or even any type of business, sometimes they feel trapped, in what
Yes.
they are doing that they're not growing. They know they need systems that work, but they don't know how to get there. So why should real estate business owners come to you specifically?
Well, I mean, why they should come to me, I think what I've found is that either working with coaches or being in masterminds with other people that are going through what you're going through, it accelerates your business growth. And, because like that was one of the big pieces of my success, was those two things. I had really good coaches, and then I networked with people, and we formed, it wasn't formal, but we just had a group of people around the country that were all property managers, and we could reach out and be like, "Hey man, I'm dealing with this. Have you ever run into this before?" Et cetera, et cetera. That really helped accelerate my growth. For me, and in terms of coaching, I've been where they are, meaning in that
You've lived
position.
it. Yeah.
Yep, on the hamster wheel, working my butt off, not growing, and through a lot of pain and a lot of kind of reading and a lot of coaching and a lot of heartache, I
Yeah.
was able to figure out a framework that kinda got me out of that. And, there's two sides to the framework of building a scalable business, and it starts with your operations. We have to systemize what you're doing. That's the only way you're gonna free yourself up to get to the second part of our framework, which is to build your business. I
Okay.
wanna start because most of the people I'm working with, and I honestly don't know, I don't think I would be the best for, like, an agent or a business owner that's really just getting started.
Okay.
I mean, I can help, but I would think what I find is I'm more effective working with those people that have had some level of success. They're not like in a position where it's like, "Oh, where's my next paycheck coming from?"
Yeah.
They're almost more a victim of their own success. And
Okay.
so what I'm going to help you do is first get free. That doesn't mean I'm not purporting that I'm going to get you to, you're going to only work 4 hours in your business or whatever. No, you're probably not. You're probably going to still work in your business, but
Mhm.
you'll go from 60 hours to 50 hours to 40 hours to eventually 30 or 20 hours of operational work, or maybe even less, depending on, your comfort with hiring and delegating. But we're going to free margin up so that you can then focus on developing the business. And our long-term goal is for you to have a business that has value that's outside of what value you bring, or
Yeah.
maybe said differently, a business that has value to a third party, whether you're there or not. Now, that doesn't mean I'm only working with people who want to sell their businesses or what, but I do want you to get to a point where whether you're there or not, your business operates at the same high level so
Yeah.
that you can feel free to take the vacation or be at the kids' game or whatever. Again, I was just having this conversation with my son, who his view of me is that I work a lot because he sees me working. But
Yeah.
what I pointed out to him was I've kind of built my infrastructure so that I can work at my kitchen table. I can work, on vacation, or I can take phone calls when I'm at, an event, not because I want to be doing those things all the time, but I just know that the reality of being successful is there's work to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to be chained to a desk to have to do it.
Yeah.
And so, my goal is to help people set up that same infrastructure and provide that opportunity to have that margin in their lives.
Okay. Can you walk me through your client's journey? Like, let's say I reach out to you via your website, I book a call, and what's the journey like, and what's the duration? As you know, every business is different, right? So, how
Absolutely.
do you handle specialty and different individual and different businesses? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. That's a really good one. We all start in the same place with everyone, and that is establishing your foundation. So you'll hear me say things that I will blatantly steal, but attribute, like start with why, Simon Sinek's amazing book. I believe strongly we have to start by establishing what's your why. And I don't mean that as like the touchy-feely, oh, it's all for my family, but like, which is great. I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
it's like the fallback answer.
Yeah.
But I'm going to walk you through. First, we're going to set your vision, mission, and core values.
Okay.
Then we're going to identify your kind of unique selling position in the market and your content pillars. Before we set your content pillars, we're going to define your ideal client profile on a granular level. So what I mean by on a granular level is not, oh, I work with first-time home buyers, but I work with, families not violating any, fair housing. But I'm just saying, we're going to identify, I work with these people that are approximately this age, that this
Yeah.
income, this is what keeps them up at night. This is what questions they have, and these are the things that they fear. And not because we want to play on their fears, but we want to be able to speak to how we help solve their problems and their fears. And so we start with, here's your foundation, who you are, your vision, mission, and core value, your unique selling position, and then we define who is your client. The intersection of those two things,
Yeah.
that's your content. That's what your marketing is. That's what you're going to speak to. So that's kind of starting on like defining who we're working with and who we are. Then, like I said, we're going to focus on operations first,
Yeah.
and I'm going to walk you through the one thing that we don't do a very good job at as business owners is defining what all we do. And it's usually, if I were to say to a business owner, hey, walk me through what you do in a day,
Yeah.
they're going to hit the highlights, but they're going to miss a lot of granular stuff that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And before we can really start to free you up, we have to know everything that you're doing. So we're basically going to take again from Dan Martell in his book, Buy Back Your Time, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to do an inventory of your tasks and everything you do. Then within that inventory, we're going to apply that eliminate, automate, delegate, figure out what is it that you're doing that you shouldn't be, like that no one needs to be doing. Then the very next thing we're going to do is what of what you're doing can we automate? And then next we're going to figure out what can we delegate.
Okay.
And I do want to, if I'm not going on too long, if I could talk a little bit about automation, is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure. Go on. Yep.
Well, I just want to alleviate concerns or fears because I know when I first started thinking about automation, I was really concerned about it having a negative impact on my customer
My
service.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want my customers to feel like they were dealing with robots or some sort of unfeeling entity.
Yeah.
But I learned that it was the exact opposite. So one of my friends, and I wish I could remember who said this because I didn't come up with this, but he said, we automate the ordinary so we can excel at the extraordinary. And that really was true. So here's like a great example. Before we automated, our process was that when we leased a house, we notified the owner because that's such great news. Everybody wants to celebrate. Hey, we leased the house. Except we didn't always do it. We did it if we remembered to do it. We did it if we felt like doing it. We did it if we weren't too busy to do it. Once we automated, every single time we leased a house, an email
Oh,
went out that said, "Hey, Clay, great news. We found you an amazing tenant for 123 Happy Meadows Lane. I'll follow up, whatever." Like we had like
yeah.
a whole thing. And
Automated
as an
messages.
owner,
Yeah.
I took comfort in knowing, one, it happened every single time. Two, the communication was exactly what I wanted the communication to be. It covered all the bases, et cetera. And three, well, I don't know, but it was great. I can tell you that because what ended up happening was our customer service was immeasurably better because the number one complaint people have about property managers, they don't communicate. What do they do besides collect rent, et cetera? So we addressed that by having automated communication. But the other thing that did was instead of my property manager having to say, "Oh gosh, I got to send out that,
No, yeah.
lease," that's a very ordinary thing. She
Wow.
could call and say, "Hey, great news. I just wanted to let you know that we had a repair issue at your house, but I was able to address it." They had the mental bandwidth to really excel at those
Yeah.
out of the ordinary things.
Yeah. So looking at what you're saying now, you're basically removing waste from the business, time waste, energy wasted on irrelevant, not irrelevant, but things that can be automated and make
Yes.
life easy. How do you also change the mindset of people? Because some people feel grinding hard all day shows they are working hard, right? How do you actually make business owners to believe you that it's not about grinding? It's about making your
Well,
life easier, right?
tell you, you nailed it. You nailed it. It's the whole busyness versus productivity. Anything we do, and I don't mean layman strategic partners, I mean as humans, any new endeavor we embark on is going to be supported by some quick wins. So I try to get them some quick wins as early as possible so they can start
Okay.
to because honestly, it's hard to even envision what life looks like if you're not in the whirlwind. If you're not in that grind, that whirlwind, it's really hard to envision what that looks like. So, I mean, honestly, some quick wins that are really easy, and this is stuff your listeners could do right
Mhm.
this second.
Yeah.
One of the things we do is we just like take a look in their email and figure out if we can just apply some simple labeling systems to help them kind of
Filter.
remove the
Yeah.
cognitive load of figuring out what email needs to be responded to more quickly or worrying, did I miss something from an important client?
Yeah.
Because like I'm a Google Workspace user, but I think Outlook very much similar. You can set filters to flag emails and then kind of reprioritize your inbox so that instead of feeling like, man, I got to read every single email, that your VIP clients get or your clients get that VIP treatment and get pushed to the
Um,
top of the inbox.
yeah.
The things that are maybe a little less urgent get, further down in the inbox, and the junk that you don't even need to see gets pushed out into either different, folders to be reviewed later. Like I get a boatload of newsletters that I don't always have time to read. I don't want to not get them, but I also don't want to have 5 newsletters on top of an email that I needed to respond to with 5 newsletters below it. I'd rather those 10 go away and let me just see.
Completely.
So trying to get them some quick wins like that is how I help to get them. And then I also, one of the things that I do, and I know it might be to my detriment, I'm not sure, but like whenever I do a live workshop or whenever I'm working with someone, I'm not going to just sit there and like say, here's your solution, now go to town. I want you to understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what's the psychology behind it, what book did I read this in, where did I come up with this, why are we doing it this way? And I want you to know the fundamentals because the fundamentals will always be the same. I mean, I shouldn't say that. They evolve, but they evolve much slower than the technology. So I just give you some technology tool and then something with the technology changes and
Yeah.
you're like, "Wait, why did we do that?" I want you to know the framework and the fundamentals so that if things change, you're able to, kind of evolve with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I admire that you've been to in corporate finance, property management, title work, agent training, now AI coaching. What's that one thing that helped you succeed in all of this? You've been to different industries. What's that one thing that have helped you succeed?
I mean, I would say probably resourcefulness.
Okay.
In my personally and then in my businesses, we typically our core values typically start with 3 things, and I'm a big believer that I'd rather show you what I am than tell you what I am. So, I'm gonna tell you what these core values are, but it's something that we live. And so the first one, and I keep them simple, they're like 1 or 2 words. The first one's integrity. It's
Mm-hmm.
always doing like the way I like to express is that we value relationships over transactions. We're gonna do the right thing for everyone involved every time, even
Yeah.
if it hurts us, and it does sometimes. Number 2 is continuous improvement, and that's just that love of learning that if you work with me, you're not allowed to say, "Because we've always done it this way."
Okay.
You can say that, but it has to be followed up with, "And here's why it's still the best way." But
Yeah.
I encourage myself and my team to always be seeking the better way because there always is a better way. There's a story about the English cycling team
Mm-hmm.
and, I just to paraphrase it, they were abysmal. They didn't win any, what do you call it? Tour de France. They didn't place at the Olympics, and then they hired a new coach. And the new coach didn't make any big changes. He sought 1% changes in everything, and
Okay.
that's what I preach to my. And by the way, the end of the story, they win Tour de France, they win the Olympics, and it's all because of all these 1% changes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I try to do with my team. But number 3 is resourcefulness. And I would say that's probably the thing that served me best throughout all of my journeys.
Yeah.
It's just being sort of like, I know I'm going to run into obstacles. And we have a little plaque in my title company that says everything is figure outable. And I
Mm.
believe that in my heart that there's no problem that can't be solved. Now there's problems that are very hard to solve,
Yeah.
but I just believe it. And, I'm not in the highest stakes, I'm not in life and death
Mm-hmm.
industry, but so what I'm saying, I get it. There's some questions out there that are hard to solve, but I believe that in property management, title,
Yeah.
accounting, business coaching, there's always a way to figure things out. And that resourcefulness has served me, probably been the thing that served me best throughout those different stops along the way.
Okay. And so what is the best way to get in touch with you if someone is looking to partner with you on this?
Sure. So you mentioned the website. So that's I'm claylayman.com. I'm easy to reach at my email, which is clay at imclaylayman.com. As far as social media goes, I'm most active on Facebook.
Okay.
Again, that's just my name. You can find me. And then I have a Facebook group, Unstuck AI. And if it's got a longer name, but if you just look for groups Unstuck AI,
Mm-hmm.
that's a great spot to come in and learn. We have a great. It's grown into a community. It was just me for a little while talking to myself. Now we
Wow.
have 400 members all over the world, 75
Wow.
countries. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
What a community.
Yeah, well, it's so cool because I'm just some redneck that grew up in North Florida, and now I'm connected to people from all over the
All over
world.
the
I love
world.
it. It's
Yeah.
such a great time to be alive.
Yeah. So is there anything I haven't asked you about your business that you want the audience to know?
I mean, no, I really appreciate that you've asked so much about my business. I think I might turn that around to you and just say, is there anything that you think your audience would value that I might be able to offer that we haven't discussed yet?
Yeah, so I'm also coming from tech and I understand how the world is changing and how AI is helping people's life. Being resistant to the change is not the best because, people will move on and leave you behind. So
Yes.
AI is the new thing. When we talk about continuous improvement, we're always looking for ways to improve on whatever we are doing. I think what you're doing is very admirable, like helping
Thanks.
people cut out waste in their businesses, improve and scale. So yeah, I think that's something to applaud. And I hope if you're in real estate and you're looking to scale, please reach out to Lehman and let him help you, improve on what you're doing now.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving me the platform and time.
Yeah,
It's
always.
this has been a really fun conversation and I'm glad we were able to work all this stuff out too.
Yeah, I love to keep it short and sweet. We can always touch base anytime you want. But thank you all for coming and joining us. You can always find Founders Outlook on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and also on YouTube. And thank you, Lehman, for joining us, and hope to see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.